Hi, all. This is Jeff Hulett. I'm the president of Personal Finance Reimagined. We're a financial education and decision-making organization. So today, I'm thrilled to welcome Suzie Grieco. She is the co-founder and COO of SG2 Recruiting. Suzie brings over 2 decades of talent acquisition leadership. She operates right at the intersection of human capital strategy and marketing. So we're going to be talking today about recruiting, and we're going to be talking about it from two kind of different perspectives. So at PFR, we have basically the month of August and the month of September. Our curriculum is focused on jobs and career. So it turns out the month of August is much more focused on early career, mid-career professionals that are thinking about switching jobs. And then really the September is focused more in on the college hire side or on the college person that's looking for their first job or their first kind of, career focused job. So either way, though, that's what August and September are all about. And so Suzie is absolutely perfect and the right person to have a conversation with. So before I turn it over to Suzie to let her introduce herself, I thought I'd just share with you a perspective to help kind of anchor our discussion today. So I'm a professor at James Madison University. I have been in a lead recruiting partner for KPMG for a better part of a decade before joining JMU's faculty. So from my perspective, I've seen and still see quite a bit of change and growth in how recruiting is done. And a couple things that I'd like to share with you is one. So when it comes to a college student, typically they'll have like what's called a UCC or the University Career Center, right? That helps the student along. Now, traditionally, this University Career Center, they introduce the students to LinkedIn. They introduce them to Handshake. Handshake is basically the portal by which companies can put their jobs out and the students can apply for them, etc. Well, what's happened in recent years is that what I call the front door process is essentially breaking down. Okay. Our students are really frustrated. They call it screaming into the abyss. And that's their words, not my words, but for them, screaming into the abyss means, hey, I'm doing it. I'm putting my LinkedIn profile out there. I'm using it to get information about people and jobs, etc. I go to LinkedIn, I put my resume out there, and then I hear nothing. I hear crickets. I'm being ghosted. I don't understand. You said this would work. It doesn't work. What's going on, right? And so then we come back to another big thing going on in colleges right now. There's a lot of fear and loathing about artificial intelligence. AI is creating an impact on early career professionals getting that first job or one of their early jobs in their career. Um, it is just more difficult today. Is basically everything that we're seeing at the college level, at least. And part of that is whether you think it's causal or correlated, whether you think AI is causing jobs to go away because hey, we don't need all these people anymore. We have AI to do this stuff, or maybe it's just hey, during the pandemic we hired a bunch of people. Interest rates are up now. Capital's more dear, so we just have to lay off people. But if you think about it, even in that second case, AI is still being used to backfill some of those positions that they don't need anymore. So one way or the other, probably AI is involved in this, and it creates concern, as you can imagine, for the students. So and then final thing I'll bring up is earlier this year, around May, June, there was a study put out by Stanford University about algorithmic bias in these hiring tools like a Handshake or LinkedIn, et cetera. And what they found was there is absolutely significant high impact bias in how these algorithms go about screening. Okay. And that was just their finding. I'll kind of leave it at that. So this is kind of the world we're in right now. And of course, as a professor, and I teach personal finance, so for me, getting a job is the cornerstone of being able to save to build wealth for your future, right? So I'm all about this, and I'm really, really working to help students to navigate this kind of difficult time. I don't think it'll be like this forever, but for right now, I can tell you, from the view of the college, this is what I'm seeing. So anyway, just wanted to bring that up. So anyway, but let's go ahead and jump right in here. So Suzie, it's so good to see you again. I was thinking about this the other day. We've known each other for decades. This is our second interview
Mhm.
also, which thank you so much for coming back. I'm glad I didn't scare you off. But
Uh,
anyway, but I thought before we get started, could you tell us a little bit more about you and about SG2?
sure. Again, thank you for having me on a second time. It says a lot. Um, uh, Recruiting was actually my second career. Having being introduced to it sort of in later stages of my life, I realized how much fun it was because of the fact that you really are learning about the clients who are hiring you to do the hiring. You're learning about their industries. You're learning about their initiatives. They're generally on the front end of whatever it is that the problems they're trying to solve. And then on the other side of it, you get to meet the candidates. So for the past 2 decades, I have had the pleasure of really leveraging my background. So I have a IO psychology degree and a marketing degree. So the intersection sort of it made sense for me to land in this area because of the fact that it marries both of the things that I really have enjoyed. Um, the recruiting aspects started as an agency recruiter, so I understand for those people who are second, sort of more professionals, experienced, or journeymen, if you will. Agency recruiting are the ones where you're being pulled in because of your area of expertise. Then I joined Booz Allen, where they were looking more for the recent grads. So the corporate recruiting side is probably where my expertise in this particular area, in terms of the people you're trying to help with, PFR. Um, they were looking for those people who were the best and the brightest of their graduating class to help do some of the work that some of the teams were supporting. So, you were coming in as a researcher, as an analyst, you're doing sort of the foundational work that the teams were doing and delivering for their clients. So that is the area that I think we're going to probably have that's been impacted by the topic that you addressed that we're going to address today. And then eventually realized I needed the flexibility of, raising 4 children. I needed the flexibility. Started my own company with another neighbor of ours, and have loved it because I get to pick and choose who I work with and the kinds of roles that I get to do, and have sort of narrowed my area of expertise to technical recruiting again because that industry is constantly evolving as I'm witnessing firsthand. So it doesn't get really stagnant when you're talking to the candidates, when you're talking to the clients. It's every 6 months there's a new technology, there's a new problem that has to be solved. So being at that forefront really appealed to me
Right.
the most. So running my own company, I really got to play and say, this is the area in which we want to work and why we want to do it and why I enjoy it so much. So thank
Oh,
you again for having me on. And going on almost 14 years. So I think
right.
we're doing something right. I would call ourselves a boutique RPO agency, which is recruiting process outsourcing. So unlike staffing agencies, we hire directly to our clients
Got it.
and we work as an embedded team, if you will. So it's
Nice.
been fun.
Well, good. No, and I love kind of watching a little bit from afar, but I love what you're doing there. So thank you again for coming back on. And something that you just said that sort of jumped out at me, Suzie, and must be really interesting, being on the technical side, which means you are more into the technology side. So it's interesting to me because I think about like your business. It has I need to help hire technical people. So I have to understand what the technology is and how they will use it with their clients or with your clients, but also turning on yourself and turning inwards towards SG2. It gives you an opportunity probably to see what all the cool new technologies are and say, oh, well, maybe I can use this technology in SG2 and figure out how we can, you know, whether it be,
We
driving
can leverage it.
effectiveness, efficiency, et cetera. But I was just curious, like what you're seeing today, just in terms of, like, I hear a lot about AI, right? I feel like AI, everything kind of thing. But I also hear sometimes, you know what? It's not as like it hasn't made as big of an impact as people may think. And I don't know if that's true or not of your business and your industry, but could you talk a little bit about that? Maybe like how you're using AI, if you're using AI, and maybe not just today, even maybe looking into the future? Well, we're not using it here today, but I could see kind of thing.
And that's a really great question because in addition to obviously owning and operating SG2, I also am a board member for Recruit DC, where our goal is to educate other recruiters. One of the things that I think is really important is to make sure that my industry, my peers within my industry, we're the best possible representation of that industry so people don't type in recruiters are on Google or whatever it is that their search engine that they're using and it comes up in a negative capacity. So we have been trying to stay at the forefront of not only for personal reasons for SG2, but to make sure that other recruiters who are getting into this industry or becoming specialized in the industry, they understand the technologies that are having an impact. I would say I first saw our industry change probably about 10 years ago with the advent of the aggregators.
Okay.
Which in all intents and purposes, AI is sort of like an aggregator on speed. And I don't know if I can say that or not on this, but essentially
Sure.
it is
We're on
an
steroids even.
on
Right,
steroids.
right.
Okay, we'll go there. We'll go there. So
That's good. I'm all right.
So
I'll get hurt. You won't.
Thank you. So essentially, the benefit of helping us as a recruiter was we were finding the candidates faster. We were getting to the harder to find candidates faster. So we were able to respond to our clients' needs in an expedited fashion. Back in the day, time to hire was a metric that people used. And those aggregators really helped us reach not only individuals faster, but because it was really scraping the internet and bringing back anyone who might have had touched the industry or the technology we were working with, we were also getting candidates that no one else was bringing up. So it set us apart. So as a recruiter, I'm thinking, I love this technology. It is giving me a technical edge. Speed forward a couple of years, and here we have AI, which essentially is, like I said, an aggregator on steroids. It's telling me if I put in a job description, if I put in a sample profile of what I was looking for, it will do all the work for me. So in addition to sourcing, which is traditionally what we do, it's going to draft the first 5 emails for me. It's going to automate my LinkedIn request. It's going to automate, if I have the right tools, it'll automate a text message. So within a very short period of time, the 7 messages that traditionally go out, and again, I'm going to date myself. I have an MBA from decades past, but one thing, my key takeaway is when you're trying to persuade somebody to do something from a marketing perspective, that message has to hit them 7 times. So for them to sort of say, to recognize, I think I need to do something, or I may have a need, it's that 7 hits. So AI is taking care of that for me. I don't have to remember to put a task in my calendar to say, call Michael Smith, or Sally Smith. Right. 5 days from now, and then remember to do the LinkedIn. It does that for me. So from a recruiter's perspective, if I do my job correctly and make sure that the emails and the LinkedIns all make sense, it is helping me do my job more efficiently, so I can either take on additional work or I can spend more time having one-on-one interviews with the people I've selected, meaning I can spend not maybe 5 minutes, I can spend 15, 20 minutes. So I can do a deeper dive, and the caliber of candidate that I'm submitting to my client, it's a much more thought out. And even the summary, drop it into AI and AI spits out 2 paragraphs, my summary is. So it's the speed in which I'm working is significantly faster. And that has helped us tremendously. But now everyone has access to those tools.
Right.
That was the tricky
so it's
part.
No longer a differentiator, right?
Exactly.
It's almost like it's gone from differentiator to table stakes, right? Like if you don't do that.
Well, it is. If you don't do it, you're right. You're at a disadvantage. In my industry, so with the Recruit DC, most of the sort of the thought leaders, if you will, that I'm reading and hearing from now, it's those people who aren't leveraging AI are going to fall behind. So and the recruiters who are not taking advantage of the speed and efficiencies that AI offers, they're going to be slower to the market. They won't be able to differentiate themselves. So it's those recruiters that are being negatively impacted. So as long as you're willing to take on those tools and use them efficiently, but use them in the correct way. So there's obviously a good way and a bad way of using AI, which I'm sure we will get to that.
Yes.
If you're using it in a good way, you're still customizing the initial message, which I believe thoroughly in, because that message has to stand out. And you have to show that you really did either read their LinkedIn profile or read their resume,
listen.
which AI, exactly. So AI does that, which I am impressed in the caliber of customization that the first email comes up with me having done nothing. So, but no longer. So now instead of a candidate getting a very interesting message from me, they are now getting an interesting message from me and 300 other of my peers. So I no longer stand out. So what do I have to do to differentiate myself? Those are the kinds of things that I think even job seekers can benefit from. Like, what are the things that I'm doing that job seekers may have to do to stand out in that flood of candidates, or for me, trying to reach candidates to say, hey, Sally and John, look at me because I've got the job for you.
Well, you know, what's interesting, Susie, and I just want to pull on that thread a little bit, is so again, my focus is a little bit more on new college hires, right? But I think it's kind of related, which is when we talk to students, we kind of talk about, say, look, you look like everybody else. I hate to tell you this, but you really do. You're special. You got a great GPA. You got a great degree, but a lot of other people did too. So you really need to think about, how do I stand out? And a lot of times the way we think about that is talking about how you can create a connection with someone based on something that they really appreciate. And you know, like at a university, the one thing that universities have is most universities, alumni means something, right? Like, in other words, if you went to a university and there's a student at a university reaching out to you and you can connect with them in a way that kind of takes them back to their days when they were at the university, like talk about the club that you were both in or talk about something new about the university. But to your point, that's one of the things that, and we've even used the AI some to help with that. But at the end of the day, it's crafting a message that it's not just unique, it's personalized to the point that you're really focused in on what will be important to that person receiving your message.
Right. And in my case, again, because I'm generally speaking to experienced professionals, it's me understanding their career path, which again, AI probably could do to say, you know what, it looks like you've been doing this for 7 years. You may be ready for a change. That's a growth. It's how do you want to take it? Do you want to become specialized? Do you want to become a manager? Do you want to become a leader? It's that message that sort of says, I've been thinking about that. And that would resonate with the candidate. So how do you differentiate yourself as a early career or actually a new grad? It is through an alumni message. It is, I was in your shoes, but maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Exactly.
I'm trying to figure out how to get my foot in the door at a particular organization. What are the things that I can do to make myself stand out? So I for me, it's easier, definitely, than being a job seeker.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things we talked to them about too is, it's all about building authentic relationships. You can't start when you need a job. And that's part of the problem I see sometimes for students is it's like, I need a job now, so I'm going to start building a network. And it's like, well, relationship comes first, job comes second. So what we try to do is like, okay, it's okay, have an informational interview, take them for a coffee if they're in, like say they went to James Madison, but they're at home and they're in the DC area and they, know people in DC or whatever. Go to their place, go to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, have coffee with somebody. They would, maybe they want to just talk to you and give you 15 minutes of their time. But, we will focus on just not waiting till you need something to build a network. And I feel like sometimes, at least from my perspective, that's the challenge, right? Because a student, kind of wants what they want, right? And they'd rather wait until they need something. But it's like, you can't think that way. But yeah, honestly, most do. We do have some enlightened students that, are more willing to think more proactively in that way. And I don't know if you see that from
No,
an
well, I
organic
do,
standpoint.
because more and more of, and this is because we have kids the same age, I should say children the same
Yeah.
age,
Adult
who
children, yes.
adult children, thank you, adult children. You know, when we were probably pursuing college, we weren't thinking about internships while we were in high school. We were thinking an internship our junior year of college, maybe. But
Right,
now more and
100%.
more, I'm seeing internships happening senior year of college, senior year of high school,
It's crazy, isn't it?
because they're thinking, I need to build my network to get into school, and then even if I decide I don't want in technology, you don't even need to get a graduate. You don't even need an undergraduate
Yeah.
degree in from a technology perspective. They are already thinking about the network that they're building at that,
Right.
what, they're 18,
Yeah.
so
17 even.
right,
Right.
exactly, 18. So
Yeah.
it's really
Well, God, Suze, I have to tell you, if I think back to when I was 17, oh my goodness.
right. I'm telling you right
That's not where
now,
my brain
I
was.
was
I
not
can tell
even
you
thinking,
that.
the last thing I was thinking about is who are my relationships that are going to help me get my job. No,
Right.
it was not
Right.
even, that was not even a
Right.
thought
I was
in
thinking
my
more to do
brain
with
cell in my head.
beer or I don't know, something like that.
Exactly. What's my summer going to be like? Now that I don't have any school to attend. But that's only really true for those individuals who already in the back of their mind already know
Right.
what their passions are, which is fantastic because they already have a goal in mind.
Right.
I think that people who, maybe in a situation now where they're feeling like they're screaming into the abyss, if you will, they are the ones who are trying to figure it out, meaning they're through the process of elimination saying, I took the science path. Was that for me? Maybe not. I
Right.
took the I took the literary journalistic path. Was that the path for me? Maybe not. Okay, so now what
Right.
did I like about both of those things? And I realized I'm going to do something that says I'm going to write about science or something along those lines. They're still trying to figure it out. Their goals aren't set to the point where the internships are going to come easy to them because typically those are passion driven, and the networks that they're going to be building up, they're going to be later. They're going to be significantly later after they figured out, okay, this is the area of interest. So, and I was that person. I fell into all of my careers.
Right.
I was fortunate. I fell into all of the careers I've had, but I was able to take
Right.
what I liked about each and every single one of them and add that to my next role. So I
Yeah.
feel like that to me, and again, the network is I still keep in touch with everyone I've ever worked with because of the fact that I built those relationships and I enjoyed them.
Right.
I wasn't doing it for the
Right.
sake of doing it.
Well, that's an interesting thing, actually. So you just said a couple things that just sort of lit up lots of my brain. So one is you like it, like you enjoy you're networking, but you're networking truly because you love keeping up with these folks that you've built relationships, mutually beneficial, et cetera. And I think that's amazing. But I also think that is either not normal or it's a skill set that has to be built and it's not necessarily resident, right? And
Fair.
maybe for you it was, right? Like you strike me as a extrovert slash not shy person, which I think are hugely beneficial to folks. But I will tell you, like with a lot of my students, whether they're introverted or extroverted, that's part of the challenge, but some of it is shyness, right? Like there's a social thing going on. They don't want to put themselves out there because they might look stupid or whatever. And that's very typical for a, 20, 21-year-old. So, so part of it for me is how like helping people along that path. That you felt, it seems like with you, Susie, you naturally went down this path because it was natural for you. And what I see more of is that it's less natural to a lot of people.
Fair enough. And you're right. It's unique because I really embraced every position, regardless of whether
Right.
I thought, oh, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my
Right.
life. No, I probably am not.
And maybe that's why you're a recruiter, right? It kind of makes sense at this point.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question, and this kind of relates, which is this whole idea that it seems like for individuals, they see Handshake and LinkedIn or whatever, and they're using AI to generate their resume and cover letter or whatever, and then they basically shotgun it into the world, so to speak, through Handshake or whatever the platform is. And then, but then on the recruiter side, of course, what are the companies doing? Well, they're getting all these resumes. They put one job out and they get a bazillion people putting out there or responding to them. So what do? They use AI to screen them. So it's like we're getting to the point where have your bot talk to my bot is kind of the attitude, but the humans aren't actually talking. And that's becoming, to me, that's becoming part of the problem. Like it's almost like we've created more capacity for jobs, but we've also created less capacity for people to actually build relationships and to just talk. And I don't know, I'm seeing that from my vantage point, right? In sort of the college world. But are you seeing that at all?
I mean, that's a really great question. I'm going to say it's remained sort of the same because when all is said and done, the tools that we've always used had some type of a ranking system. It wasn't necessarily AI, but if you're talking about an applicant tracking system, 20 years ago, you submitted an application, it looked for keywords. We're talking keywords now. And that was 20 years ago. And if you didn't have the right keywords in your resume, your profile, you wouldn't rise to the top 10% of the people I was going to talk to because that's all we do. If we have 1,000 applicants, we're going to go through our first 100, the order in which it was applied. So there's the benefit of AI getting your application in among the first. But I'm only going to talk to the first 100, but the first 100 out of those, the best ones out of the people I speak to are the ones I'm going to move forward with. The best person for the job could have been candidate 110. I never even looked at them. So,
Right.
so has technology changed to the point where it's affecting my process? Probably not, because it's the same top 100 that I'm going to look at. If I can get my best candidate out of my top 100 candidates, I'm not even going to look at candidate 111. So
Right.
AI, I
So
mean,
you
if
just kind of
everyone's
turn it off. You get to your 100 and you just stop there, right? Like, hey, I got my pool, so I'm done. Is that fair?
well, if they have the skill sets,
Right.
they meet the requirements, they have the skill sets. Do I think that they will thrive in the organization that I'm submitting them to? Absolutely. So I get
Right.
from a recruiter's perspective, and this is historical, which I still use today. For every search, I come up with a thousand people. Let's just say 1,000 people. I'm going to talk to 100. I'm sorry. I'm going to pick my top 100. I'm going to talk to 10. Out of those 10, I will submit 3 to 5. More than likely, my client is going to hire one, or my internal hiring manager. So it could be a client, it could be a hiring manager. My hiring manager is going to hire one of those people. So
Okay.
do I need to talk to all 1,000? I do not. I just need to identify the 3 to 5 people who have the skills, if that includes communication, who have the capability to do the job and thrive in that new environment. So when all is said and done, that process has not changed.
Okay.
And
That's fair.
AI will not change that because, and when all is said and done, even though I submit the
Well,
5
well, when you say it
strongest
won't
candidates,
change it, the process is the same, but perhaps AI is making the process more efficient. Is that
well,
a way
not
to
even
think
more
about it?
efficient because keywords used to give me my top ranked people. AI
Okay.
is now telling me here are your top, in theory,
Okay.
these are your top ranked people. I'm
So
not going to talk
perhaps
to,
if it's some fine tuning, like maybe AI is more accurate in your top 100. I don't know if that's true, but
well, again, one of your notes is if people are using AI to
right.
write their resume to my job description, they are going to come up number one.
Right.
But when I talk to them and they can't speak to their summary, I'm going to say, I don't know why we're
Oh,
having this conversation. However, I don't
that's a
believe you
great
have the
point.
skill
Do you
sets.
do you see that? like
Oh, in
where it's
technology,
actually
all the
become
time.
almost not, I don't know if we want to call it fraud, but effectively faking your way into an interview when it's clear that whoever this person is, you're not them.
Well, yes and no. So what they've done is they probably gave they gave ChatGPT or whatever tool that they're using, Claude, they gave them their resume, the job description, and they said,
Right.
write a resume that matches the job description.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Or write a summary that speaks to this particular, and we all know AI has the ability to hallucinate. So
Right.
if it doesn't exist in the resume, but it's required in the job description, they may say, I am a Microsoft expert. Okay,
Right.
fantastic. When you say that in your summary, I'm going to say, I am talking to you because I'm looking for a Microsoft expert. You
Right.
said it in your summary. It's your skill points number three
Yeah.
and four.
Right.
Talk to me about that. And they're
And they
like,
go, micro who?
well, are you talking about Outlook? I'm like, okay.
Oh, you're like,
So
oh,
the problem
right.
is they did not read the resume because it was maybe generated and spit out. They can't
Right.
speak to their bullet points. I'm like, it's number one on your resume. They're like, oh, let me pull that up. I'm like,
Hmm.
am I, and some people will
So
admit,
those are the
I
tells when you know to get through it real quick. It's like, okay,
absolutely.
we're done
Oh,
here.
or
Yeah.
some
Nice
people
to
will
meet you.
say, and this is, I'm not, I can't even tell you the number of people who I've said, I don't remember applying for the job. Probably because they didn't. They had their bot do it.
Right.
Fantastic. I always start with a description of the job that I'm hiring for and the key skill sets I'm looking for and what's going to make some sense. And I said, you're here, you're on this call with me because your resume said, these are the skills you have. So those are the skills we're going to focus on.
Okay.
If they can't speak to it, that's an issue.
Nice. Well, I have one more question for you, and um, and I'm more curious than anything else, but I have a going in assumption that I'm probably going to reveal here, and I'd love for you to correct me to the degree I need to be corrected. But my assumption, like you were just bringing up, hey, we have a job, and you're the recruiter that's building the pool, the 100 or so people, and then you go there and you present to the client the ones that, and they decide which ones they're going to interview, the top 4 or 5, 10, I don't know, whatever it is. But what I'm wondering about is one of the things that we're seeing is more and more jobs are gotten through what we call non-front door channels. And maybe since you represent more of the front door, maybe that's a little bit different. But what I mean by that is that the relationships with hiring managers or even people in the company that know the hiring manager or something like that, that those are becoming really important relationships. Can you
Yeah.
speak to that at all? Do you see that, or is that sort of outside of your area?
I didn't get a chance to tell you that even if I submitted 3 to 5 fantastic candidates on paper and I've highlighted their benefits and their skill sets and how wonderful they were to talk to, the hiring manager can say, you know what? I just talked to my cousin's best friend and he recommended his nephew from,
Right.
from Oklahoma and we're hiring them. I'm like, okay,
Really?
uh, uh,
Now, hopefully you still get paid, but I don't know.
well, so I do, thankfully, because I'm an RPO.
Right.
I'm like an internal recruiter, so they have to pay me whether or not they pick my candidate. Contingency
Right.
recruiting is a different matter.
Right.
But bottom line is, even when I was at Booz, and it had to do obviously because of the clearance folks, they all knew their network, even though they had applied to the position. But they at the time they didn't know how to write a resume, so their keywords didn't raise them
Right.
to the top. I would never have talked to them, but the hiring manager, like I said, they was a referral, a friend of a friend. They would say, you got to talk to this person, and they would end up getting the job. And not only
Right.
so the referral, there's that piece that I know their background, I know their attitudes, I know their skill sets. I know what I would need to train and what I know
Right.
inherently they come to the table with.
Right.
None of that is on paper. Like
Right.
there's no way I can screen when I look for candidates, when I'm talking to them, there's no way I can screen from a resume or a LinkedIn profile initiative or attitude or what it's like to be a colleague with this person. How do they manage? How do they manage up? Like none of that is really screenable or searchable, if you will.
Right.
So that's why referrals still in the cleared space are probably back when I was at Booz, it was 75% of the hires. were
Right.
referrals.
Right.
And
Right.
we had teams of sourcers, recruiters, applicants. I mean, you can imagine you work for KPMG,
Right.
so
Right.
that we were not at a loss for candidates.
Right.
But 75% of in my area were referrals, hires,
Yep. No, that
not
makes,
submissions, but hires.
yep. Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense actually. And I hope for people that are listening to this, I think that's like, it kind of goes to show you, right? Like, okay, yes, you should go through the process of putting your resume together, going into, the portals and applying for jobs as they come up. But, at the end of the day, it's like, but that's only 15 to 25% of who actually gets hired, if I follow
Well,
your numbers, Susie. So anyway, but that's, yeah,
and I
that,
think the number is lower outside of the cleared space in terms of
right,
referrals, but it's still a significant number.
right.
Because they feel in some ways they're getting, I don't want to say a tried and true, but they're getting someone who could vouch for
Right.
that person, having worked with them in the past or
But yeah,
known
but
them
I'm
in the
also
past.
imagining, Susie, like what you just said is like, if you know someone, it's like you have a level of comfort, right? Like
Mhm.
it's Uncle Bill's nephew, I don't know, whatever it is. But there it goes beyond that, right? You like to think like for whatever reason you feel like they know them. Whereas like I'm imagining like what you were just saying before about somebody puts together the perfect resume, has the perfect matching to the job description thing, and then you get in and talk to them, and it's like that's not the same person, right? Kind of
Right.
vibe. And I feel like that would happen. I'm wondering if that happens with new hires, right? Like they bring people in and they very quickly realize, oh, we thought this person was X, and it turns out they're not even close to X. And oops, we made a mistake.
Well, and that's possible. I mean, to be honest with you, it happens. It happens. I don't want to say for me, it doesn't happen quite that much. About
Yeah.
much, I'd like to say, but it does
Not with
happen.
you guys, of
Right.
course,
I was
but
going to
those
say not
other
with me.
recruiters.
Our
Right.
candidates tend to be very well vetted, but
Of course.
they're also experienced professionals. These are not people who are
Right.
in the job. There is, and again, because we have adult children, my youngest just entered the workforce, and the concept of how they're adapting to working either 9 to 5 or in an office, it is
Right.
so insanely foreign to them. They're like, oh my
Right.
God, am I doing this for the rest of my life? You like, they may have something going
Right.
on that
Right. Right. Right.
says, I need a career shift. I need,
Right.
so when you talk about new hires or coming out of college, if they've done an internship, they've done it in an environment where they
Right.
were given great jobs. They had a cohort, they had a wonderful support network, they had mentors thrown at them. They
Right.
were sort of in an intern bubble, if you will. And then they get to the real world where they're like,
Yeah.
here's your assignment, there's your desk, you're sitting by
Yeah.
yourself. Don't
Yeah.
ask us any questions because we think you should know all of this already.
Right.
And then they're realizing, okay, this is not
It's
what I signed up for.
it's a rude awakening,
It
I
is.
think.
It is
It's
totally
a
a
it's
root.
like
So in this world, adapting and changing to your environment is probably the one skill that we don't necessarily measure throughout the interview process. Like there may be some behavioral questions, there may be
yeah, like
someone
tell
who
me
can
about a time when something difficult happened
behavioral
and how
questions
you
like that.
overcame it,
Exactly.
and
Well, and
which of
that's
course all students get that answer in their head before they do it and make something up or something. I don't
well,
know.
and
I
they
always
have to because they don't have real experience. They don't traditionally have
right,
real experience.
right.
So,
Like
and that's
I'm
one of the
imagining I
things.
came from a tough life. Okay.
Right. I'm imagining what it was like, not to
Yeah,
grow up in Nova.
yeah,
But bottom line is that is how a telltale for me.
right.
I started adding behavioral questions when I talk to candidates who I
Yeah,
suspect have given me I don't want to say a fake resume, but an AI enhanced resume. I ask them to be very specific about from something from their pull. If they have 10 years of experience and they can't pull one example of their experience,
yeah. It's a tell.
that's a problem. They give me a generic
Yeah,
answer. I was like, wait, did you not manage 10 people like 2 years ago? Can you talk to me about that? And they
right.
struggle with that.
Yeah,
Um, even if they even if they are using AI to enhance their responses, which is okay, because some people
right,
English is not their first language. I'm okay with that, and
right.
they have a guide.
Yeah.
Fantastic. as long as they're able to be specific about pulling in what they know. And even if you're a college grad, are you telling me you didn't have a college professor you didn't understand and how you negotiated that? Did you have a counselor who didn't refuse to help you out through the process? What did you do how did you handle that problem? There's got to be something in your academic experience that you can pull from. And if you're telling this is how I would handle it, and the AI responses tend to be very verbose. I'm telling you, there's not a recruiter who is looking for a 2-paragraph answer to how did you handle. It's sort of like,
it used to be a screener, write at least 100 words, and that was like such a big deal. Now it's the opposite. It's kind of funny. I can't even tell
you how many times people are giving me like nice SAT words when they respond. I'm like, I guarantee you, I've never used pugnacious in any conversation in my life that I think that you should be pulling that up right now. So
oh my God.
Those are telltales. And we all are now being trained. Like, I just joined, this is going to make you laugh, but I just joined an organization for recruiters called the Fraud Squad. Because for remote positions, we have been flooded by foreign nationals who are vying for the jobs that we have, and they're using fake IP addresses. They're using, I don't want to say fake names, or they've purchased fake names. They've purchased fake LinkedIn profiles. But bottom line is we're using a technique called, I don't want to say signal stacking. So it can't be just one thing, like the person can't pronounce their name. Okay, well, that's a problem. But okay, so let's just say I ignore that. But
we call it, in my word, we call that layered risk. But same idea.
I'm calling it fraud stacking. So it's something I recently learned about, and I use it. So the 2-paragraph response to a, what is your management style? I lead by example. That's what I'm expecting. And they give me like the dictionary version of leadership. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Thank you. Fantastic. I know you can read.
Yeah, exactly. That's great.
It's fun.
Well, thank you so much, Suzie. This has been a wonderful discussion. And one of the things, my big takeaways is I'd really like to have some more of this discussion. It's just been just super,
and I apologize.
helpful.
Did we get to, I don't know if we've answered all
we absolutely didn't get to everything, but that is 100% okay. We don't have to get everywhere. It'll give us something for next time. And I'm all good with that. But I was wondering if you could wrap up thinking about whether you're a junior or senior in college, or maybe you're an early career professional, perhaps going from your first job to second, or second to third job, whatever that is. Do you have any words of wisdom? What's different in your world? What could you, if you were talking to this person, what might you suggest?
I would definitely say use all the tools at your disposal, whether they be AI or not, because your peers are using it. And if you're not using it, you may be at a disadvantage. So if you are using the tools incorrectly, it'll be a disadvantage because you will be found out. If you can't speak to the first bullet point on your profile, that's going to be a problem. So if you're using AI to generate your content, make sure you can speak to it, because when all is said and done, you have to review it and you have to be able to speak to it. More and more recruiters are doing either video calls, no longer automation. They are doing in person. So practicing your interviewing techniques, which is not something AI can do for you, is you will stand out from your peer group because you understand how to answer a question. You understand how to maintain eye contact. You understand the interviewing concepts that everyone else will not.
Right.
So there are ways, and I would say use the tools at your disposal. Use them the way that you would use them when writing a paper for school, meaning don't submit it without proofing it first. Exactly. Yes. Understand its liabilities, meaning, yes, it may get you in the top 100 in an application process, but you're probably going to be the only person who reaches out to that recruiter on LinkedIn to say, hey, I just applied, and this is why I applied, and my background, I'm really interested in. That is the first person I'm going to call out of the first 100. If you're in that 100, and even if you're even in 150 and you say you applied, I'm going to respond to you because you're only 1 or 2 people on LinkedIn, and that volume is so much more manageable to a recruiter. So the networking component, even if you don't know the recruiter, is worth the outreach effort. And I think that, again, narrows you become a smaller part of the pool. So those would be the recommendations.
Nice. No, I love that. Oh, that's so helpful, Susie. It's funny, as a former hiring leader, the one thing that always kind of drove me a little bit crazy, if I asked a candidate, so what questions do you have for me? Right? Like, I do the interviewing, but then I say, well, what questions do you have for me? And they're like, oh no, I'm good. It's like, really?
Yeah.
So I'm always like, go in there with several questions and, like, connect yourself to the company, help the people understand that you actually really have thought about what it would be like working for that company, to the point where you're asking questions about it. So anyway, for whatever
and I
it's
agree
worth.
with you. There are, again, most people will come because AI will give them the list of questions. Don't get me wrong. I've heard those too. It's all the basic. What is the next step in the interview process? What is the first day or first 6 months going to look like? What are the metrics I will be measured against? I've heard all of that before.
Right.
If they ask a question related to something I said during the interview, meaning you asked about I'm going to use the Microsoft technology. You asked about Microsoft technology. What percentage of time I'm using that over AWS technology, because I'm equally versed in both. Like, can you give me that? Suggests to me they heard what I was saying about the job description.
Yeah.
That isn't
critical thinking,
AI generate. Thank you. So
absolutely.
that is something. You're right. Always ask a question, but make it something that either comes from the interview or related, that you've given an aspect of the job some special thought, because you thought, okay, what if I was doing this? What would I have encountered as a problem?
Perfect. Well, Susie, as always, so wonderful to talk with you. You really bring a lot of decades of knowledge, and I think so very helpful. I'll let you know, I am going to assign this to my class this semester, so they'll have a chance to learn a little bit more too.
Well, you know what? It's funny. As much as we've done this, I don't get a lot of LinkedIn requests from your students. And probably because I don't
maybe we need
in
to
your
change
field.
that.
That could be one reason. That could be one reason.
You never know. That's okay. But anyway, I so appreciate it. It really means a lot.
I'm happy to do it.
And we will talk soon. So thanks you. And you have and by the way, I just want to remind everyone, this is Suzie Grieco. She's the co-founder and chief operating officer of SG2. They are a local DMV recruiter, and she's also involved with DC Recruit. So anyway, Suzie, how would people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
I'm going to say I am pretty much available on all platforms, because as a recruiter, I want to be easy to find. LinkedIn, obviously, website, definitely. Even if they want to reach out to you to say, hey, can you put me in touch? All of my contact information is readily available through Instagram, LinkedIn, even Facebook.
Excellent. Well, you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. You take care.